The Cellcast is recorded in front of a live streaming audience.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Cellcast. Joining me today is a man who, well, is feeling a little porkish. Welcome, Jacob.
Oink, oink, oink. Woof. Wait, hold on. Deedlet, what did you do now?
Deedlet, what did I tell you about turning him into animals? Please don't stop doing that.
Yeah, oink. This is going to be an interesting episode, people. Why, thank you, oink, to our co-host, a man who, he's got to get those, he has to have those gold bits for some reason. Be like, it's just the lust of the money is consuming him. Welcome, Drew.
Well, you know, in this horrible time we're in, where inflation is on the rise, we need all the money we can get.
That is true, but then it turns into mud.
And that's because it's not real, unfortunately. Anyway.
All right, so let me introduce our special guest for tonight. It's like, all I gotta ask, it's like, why did you decide of all times to bring in this strange character with a goofy mask on? Huh? What about that, Cody? Welcome, Cody House.
I just felt like, why not wear a weird mask that has no facial expression?
Oh my gosh, we're gonna get you all eaten.
Don't feed the plant. How are you doing, Cody?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
I think we're doing good. How are you?
I think I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Week's been pretty good. This is like, there again, we have shifted times where we're scheduling. So it's the end of the week now. Be like, the weekend's upon us, and I am like, woohoo, weekend.
I imagine. And I have had a busy week, but I had all today off, so I am for the most part well rested, even though most of the week I was dead to the world. But anyway, Jacob, I do believe, since we do have a guest, we have an interrogation.
Yes, we do. Normally, like we do on this podcast, the guest does not know that this, or if they haven't listened to our podcast in any recent time, that we have interrogation or questions for our guests. So, Cody, what was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh man, I'm a child of the early 90s, late 80s.
As are we all.
Welcome to the party, pal.
It's probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then when I got a little bit older, it was Batman the Animated Series.
Nice,
good choices.
Very nice, very nice.
And an honorable mention to X-Men as well.
Which we're going to start reviewing in the TAS, the Animated Series segment, starting January.
Yeah,
very foundational to my nerdom, those two shows, Batman and X-Men. And if you haven't heard of the song before or haven't in a while, go on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever and listen to Whitney Houston's I'm Your Baby Tonight, and then you're going to be like so shocked how it sounds similar to the X-Men theme.
Are you saying that Ron Wasserman may have plagiarized?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe he was just really into Whitney Houston at that time. I don't know.
Oh, that is interesting trivia right there. All right, so another question: if you were stuck in the world of Studio Ghibli, what part of the universe would you want to go to, or not want to go to?
I think I'd want to live in the near the Totoro place, just to be visited by the whimsical Totoro and the cat bus. That would be great.
I can see this.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Definitely don't want to go to the world of Princess Mononoke, where like,
no.
Where the animals are being corrupted, and
yeah, that would be a little awkward.
Yeah,
it's the same would be true
with Nausicaa. to be honest.
And Nausicaa's not a great place to go visit. Got to wear a
No.
mask all the time there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sounds like a more recent future of ours.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
watched Nausicaa around because I did a whole Miyazaki filmography watch, and I watched most of those during the height of the pandemic. So yeah, Nausicaa was feeling very timely.
Awesome. So, let me think. What is the most recent animated movie you watched in theaters?
Oh my god, in theaters.
Mhm.
I think it's got to be Encanto. I think was the
Okay.
last. Because I'm trying to think of what other. Because I did. Because Turning Red went straight to Disney Plus, and I didn't.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
we
I
have,
know,
Turn
right?
red on that.
we have a lot of opinions.
Come on, Disney.
Of the two Pixar movies that came out, I think they picked the wrong one that went straight to Disney Plus. But
I agree.
and I didn't go see Lightyear in theaters either. So yeah, I think it's Encanto.
Okay.
You didn't really miss much.
I watched it. It's fine for what it is for a movie that didn't need to exist.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. I mean, I think Lightyear had some merits. I thought some of the story was very good, but again, we all have different opinions.
We will eventually review that episode.
Yes, we will. We eventually get around to watching a Lightyear.
We did do a reaction of it though.
All
I
right.
probably would have disliked it more had I seen it in the theaters, but watching it at home on Disney Plus, I was like, oh, that's not bad.
That was one I was kind of before we went into it. I wanted to see it in theaters because space stuff always seems to play better in a theater.
Mhm.
But it just wasn't that, in my opinion, it was not that good a story.
Yeah, it's fine. I kind of liked a little bit of it, but I'm with you. It's not a great story.
All right. So ever since you are a massive movie buff, Cody, ever since I was fortunate enough, blessed enough to be on your show, remind me of the show's name again.
Video Store Rejects.
Yeah,
We do basically a deep dive into directors' filmographies. We also do like a sideshow usually for certain themes. And for the month of November, we're doing fantasy. We just did Never Ending Story and Dragon Slayer. And next week, we're talking Labyrinth and The Princess Bride.
Oh, interesting.
I've seen 3 of those movies.
All right. So kind of going in that same realm of the movies you reviewed over on your podcast, what movie would you love for them to do in animated form, 3D or traditional?
Of the movies, so a live action movie I've reviewed.
Exactly. That would make into a 3D or 2D traditional animated movie.
Let me think. There's been a lot. Because with all our sideshows too. But I think I'll just focus on the directors we've covered, because that'll be a little bit easier for me to remember and think of what would make a great animated film. And I think I'm gonna go with James Cameron. And honestly, I think T2 would make a great like anime version.
Yeah,
I can
in
see
animated form. Yeah,
Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be so cool. That would be amazing. Cool. Oh my gosh. So final question of this torture or inquisition, whatever we want to call this part of the show.
And no one expects it.
Yeah, no one expects it. Oh, what is your all-time favorite anime of all time? If that's series or movie.
Okay, I'm not an anime expert. I've seen most of Ghibli, but like my anime knowledge is nowhere near what other people's are. So series, I'll probably sound basic with this, but Cowboy Bebop, I just love that show. I love the infusion of the music and the energy. And I like that it's about a group of misfits becoming a family. And then movie wise, it's hard because my go-tos want to say something Ghibli, but there's also so many other great animes that are not Ghibli.
Indeed.
And I'm just gonna go with the Ghibli. Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro. I love that movie.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. So I think we are done with this segment. Thank you, Cody. You survived. You didn't get turned into a cat or whatever.
Oh, thank goodness.
That would have been, well, I would say that would be awkward, but there was the case of your cousin who got turned into an Eevee in the middle of that episode.
That is true. We've never really solved that issue either.
What happened there?
Yeah, it remains in the ether, a mystery, an enigma.
Did they get caught?
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. He was out by the end of it. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So Jacob, I have a question for you.
What have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Not a whole lot, really. Like in between last Friday and today, which is the next Friday, hardly anything. I've watched a lot of YouTube. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, definitely true crime. I'm a huge fan of true crime, like most of our listeners know. And yeah, not a whole lot, really. I love watching the Casual Criminalist on YouTube by Simon Whistler. That's an amazing show. And there again, if you're a true crime junkie, yeah, that's your jam. That's your butter and jam, or peanut butter and jam, whatever.
Jacob, if you have Hulu, I would recommend watching Only Murderers in the Building if you like true crime, because it's kind of a comedy of that.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez, that good trio there. Good, tried and true.
I keep hearing really good things about that.
It's really good. It's fun, especially if you like Steve Martin and Martin Short.
True. Classic comedians.
Yeah.
So that is all I've been watching. So what have you been watching?
Well, actually, I was going to throw it to our guest Cody.
There we go. What have you been watching,
he is
Cody?
our guest. I can go last.
Okay, what have I been watching? Well, we just wrapped up Halloween, so mostly spooky movies. I've been watching Guillermo del Toro's produced show. It's called Cabinet of Curiosities. And it's really fun, especially if you love H.P. Lovecraft, because there's two Lovecraft stories they adapt, but there's a lot of Lovecraftian elements in all the little short stories. And I started watching the Interview with the Vampire series, which I actually like. I know some people are not happy with the modern interpretations of it, but I'm liking it. I'm digging it.
It happens.
Okay.
So I do want to make one sign. I did forget I did watch one thing. I watched the original Hocus Pocus on Halloween.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Did you watch the second one?
I haven't watched it yet. I have. I am planning on watching it. I gotta get around to actually watching it.
I have opinions about the second one, but we won't go into that right now.
That's interesting you mentioned Hocus Pocus, because in the dub of this, there's an actor who's in Hocus Pocus that voices a character in this.
I didn't see that when I was doing my research, but I do not doubt you.
Huh.
I'd have to look. I'll look back up into that when we get later. So what I've been watching, outside of my normal things, such as, Spy Family, still,
of course,
my favorite anime of all time at this point. Were you about to say something, Cody?
I was gonna say I've enjoyed what I've watched of that. It's pretty fun.
Nah. I hadn't done that in a while. I just find it interesting how Anya is like the most believable 4-year-old I've ever seen in television. Because almost every other 4-year-old I've ever seen on television, they don't act like 4-year-olds. And yes, technically she might be 6. We don't really know. I think she was lying in that first episode, but either way,
I personally, I've seen probably like I think
I
2
think
or
you
3.
saw 4 episodes.
I've seen 4 episodes.
because you didn't get to the castle.
No, I did not get to the castle.
But I haven't. Wait, is that like? I don't want to give spoilers. Maybe I've seen that one. It's been a while. I know there's like a whole second season now, right?
Oh yeah, I am actually I'm caught up to current with the subtitled version.
And there's a certain dog named Bond.
Yes, Bond is best boy.
That's great.
He's not just a good boy, because a good boy would not have, saved Anya so many times that he did. But anyway, along with that, I finally went back and started working through one of my TV blind spots by trying to go through Daredevil again. I got up to the stick this afternoon.
Oh yeah.
Normally I don't like stuff this violent. It's just a little past the violent side of things. So you can imagine in the scene at the bowling alley took me a couple days to get past. And Fisk's taking care of that guy with the car door. But I mean, I'm enjoying it. So it's a very well done show. I do need to get caught up on all of the old Netflix shows since they are all on Disney Plus now.
Are you doing that because now they're part of the MCU, basically?
I will admit I'd been meaning to go back through them before, because I was always of the thought that somehow they had to still have been in the MCU back before Endgame, or really back before WandaVision kind of caused that confusion. Because that's where I got confused, even though that was more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. than anything else. But
yeah, they briefly mentioned things about like characters, but that's about it, because they didn't have.
But I still want to know exactly what happened, because I kind of like being able to, if they make a small reference, I can go, oh, I know what they're talking about.
Oh, well,
that does happen from time to time.
I mean, the Daredevil series is great. The first season of Jessica Jones is great. Third season's pretty solid, and Luke Cage is good. You could skip Iron Fist.
Everybody says that. And the thing is, I like Kung Fu stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's not anywhere near as good as Shang-Chi was, but...
No, they finally did a better Kung Fu version.
But I will still give it a shot, if for no other reason than he's in Defenders.
And, they're bringing Daredevil back. I mean, he's popped up.
He is getting another show, so...
Yeah.
And I'll admit, when you've not watched Hawkeye yet, have you?
No, I have not.
Never mind, I'm not going there.
There's a lot of those shows I have to watch.
You see, you've watched WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's it, right?
Let me think. I've watched a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I haven't watched all of everything, so I am not completely immersed in the MCU TV series.
Jacob, what are you doing? You got to catch up on your homework if you want to watch the movies too.
Okay, Jim.
Not that as much as it should have. Not that WandaVision helped you figure out what was going on in Doctor Strange at all, but sure.
I think you'll be okay for Wakanda Forever. They're introducing new characters, but I don't think they're going to reference too much of the TV shows.
They're bringing back the oldest concurrent superhero in the Marvel universe, so...
Yep.
And he was only I think he's still only half owned by Marvel.
Is he really only half owned?
I think someone else still technically owns like the rights to him, and that's why they've had such a hard time getting him into making a movie with him until now. So I don't know what happened. Maybe it's the other part went into public domain or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
I didn't know that. I knew it was a character from Timely.
And I could be wrong on that, because I'm just remembering something from a book I read about the history of Marvel Comics, and I somewhat doubt some of the things that were said in that book. So I think there was a little bit of misinformation in that particular book. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching. So Jacob, what do we got in the news?
The Cellcast News with your host Jacob Heron.
Well, thank you, Dealit. And Sally, what information I have gathered for the news is diddly squat. I could not find a single thing newsworthy to talk about. Maybe I just missed everything. Maybe Google was just giving me bad information.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe you two wonderful gentlemen know something about the news that I don't.
to be honest, I don't. And I think we run into this problem every November.
Looks like it.
Well, are we talking strictly animation news?
Well, animated
Right.
movie news.
Or any
Okay.
animated
Yeah,
news.
something like that. As
Cartoon
Drew pulls up
news.
Google.
Tales of the Jedi dropped last week on Disney Plus, and that's pretty good.
That was good.
I still need to watch that.
That was it's like you could probably watch it in like what, an hour?
probably.
Maybe 2 hours, because I think they're roughly about 20 minutes each. They're pretty short.
They're good though. They're very good.
Basically, it's giving a bit more of a backstory for Ahsoka and then Count Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But
admittedly, what few little we had before that's not technically canon before Clone Wars, so
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see that.
oh, isn't Disney dropping a movie this month? Strange World?
Yeah,
Is that what
Strange
it's-
World.
Strange World, yeah, that's coming out in
Thank you.
November.
Strange World's coming out this month. I think it's
That's still coming out so much faster than I expected.
yeah.
it to.
Hold on.
Thanksgiving weekend, I think.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Now I'm feeling embarrassed as the guy on news. Yeah, Strange World is coming out this month. They've been dropping interviews and trailers and posters. Heck, the poster that where we live, be like their theater has a poster, and I am so be like, can I like when you're done with it, can I have that poster? Because that's a cool poster. But apparently me and my brother will be like, no, but it's me because I like it because I'm adventuring and stuff. It's like, dude, but I'm the animation guy. It's like, come on. Yeah, it's fun.
It looks like a throwback to like a 1950s style.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I love. I'm so interested in this movie. For
Yeah,
it.
I mean, like it looks like a fun film. Be like they've been dropping teasers, cast interviews, reactions, the whole enchilada,
Mhm.
and it just looks like a fun film. So I'm thinking maybe not. We haven't talked about this yet, but like doing a reaction to it when it comes out.
We won't be able to do it week of because
That is true.
I will at least be out of town. But yeah, that next weekend should work. We'll see.
That's true. I think that week I'll be dog sitting for somebody.
Well, that means you'll have plenty of time
That's true.
There you go.
for a 2-hour movie and then an hour of us yakking about it.
Sure.
So that's all we got in the news.
Yeah.
Then why don't we go ahead and jump into the spoiler-free section of our review for Spirited Away.
Certified fresh and spoiler free.
Cody, since you're our guest, why don't you start us off on the spoiler-free review?
Okay. You just want me to just start talking about the movie?
As long as you don't spoil anything.
Okay.
I
General
think of this as the Consumer Reports side of the review.
General
Well,
thought.
I mean, you might say this is overhyped or it's overrated, but this truly is one of the Studio Ghibli's library, not only because it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Film that year, but
Mhm.
really it encapsulates everything that not just makes a Miyazaki movie so great, but just what
Mhm.
makes the style of animation so mesmerizing. It just enraptures you when you watch it from the moment it starts. It is literally the animated version of The Wizard of Oz to me. It's in that same vein of storytelling, and not just because it's about a young girl that gets transformed into a magical land, but it's just a beautiful, wonderful movie. And you know, it's also one of supposed Miyazaki's last films. How many times has he retired?
I think we're up to 5 retirements.
Because he
And
was going to retire.
he's coming back again. So
Mhm.
Yeah. He can't stay away. He can't stay away. But
I suspect he will die in the director's chair one day.
Yeah.
the cigarette in his hand in one hand and a pencil in the other.
Yeah. Like so many other choreographers do. It's like
Mhm.
it's the last sketch or the last direction they do, and that's it.
Well, who was it? I think it was in the Jetsons review that they actually died in the recording booth.
Yeah.
Mel Blanc.
wow.
Mel Blanc.
Yeah, Mel Blanc
As he was
suffered a massive
recording for
heart attack
Mr. Spacely.
in the studio,
He was recording
Wow.
for Mr. Spacely in that movie.
and he
I didn't
allegedly
know
died.
that.
Yeah, he allegedly died in there. Now,
God,
I think it was the guy who voiced George Jetson
Yeah,
was also having severe
he
issues.
died during production also, if I remember correctly, and they actually took the recording studio to his hospital room to finish his lines.
wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Can we just get a few more lines in before sir? Dang.
And the one about that movie that really got me was the original voice actor who played Judy.
Yeah,
Be like,
she's
had
in
already-
the movie, but they cut all her lines as Judy and gave it to some pop star because that was supposed to just be her singing voice.
Yeah, because somehow
Okay.
like her and
June
the director
Foray.
had some kind of relationship.
I believe that was June Foray who did her, the same voice of Rocky Squirrel from the Rocky and Bullwinkle,
Yeah.
and I think Betty
Mhm.
Boop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
I think I may be confusing my people, admittedly.
Betty Boop, the original voice actress, her last performance
That's
was
right. Hers
in
was
Who
in
Fr-
Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That
So
was her last
that's not
performance.
June Foray then. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, that was 1980.
8 is when Roger Rabbit came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So yeah, that wasn't June Foray. Anyway, doesn't matter.
yeah, because the Jets came out in the 90s.
89, I think was the year.
89. Okay, yeah, that's right.
I think it was 89 for that one. But anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my second viewing for Spirited Away. And I will admit the first time I watched this, I didn't get it. Bear in mind, I watched this probably back in like the early 2000s, like probably not long after this won the Academy Award. And I remember it being airing on Toonami one night, back when Toonami was not in the middle of the night. It was actually like at prime time on Cartoon Network on a Saturday, and they were doing a month of Miyazaki movies, and this just happened to be the first one I watched. And at that time, Dragon Ball Z was my definition of anime, and boy, is this not that. So I was a little confused the first time, and I remember admitting later on that yeah, it was good. I just did not understand it, and so it was not really until this viewing that I was able to actually get a better appreciation for this film. It's still not my favorite Miyazaki or Ghibli film, but I enjoyed it. I think it's one you definitely should give a watch to. It's a good movie. It's got a great story, and it's beautifully animated. So definitely, I give it the suggestion to go watch this film.
I would agree. This is my first time viewing this movie. Drew literally dropped it off my door the other day, and it's like literally be like, we live in the same apartment complex.
We sometimes will share the physical version.
That is true. That is true
for the show.
That is true. It makes it a little more convenient. But I enjoyed the mess out of this film. Be like there again, from the creativity, the storytelling, the imagination in which they go into. Definitely with a lot of the like the Japanese mythology and the whole bit, with the story and the whole bit. Because it's this girl wanders into this wonderland in a way that you're like, you don't know what's going to happen next and what next turn she's going to fall into. But it's such a well done movie that is, it's I don't want to say it's just a treasure, but it's one of those Miyazaki films that needs to be watched.
Mm-hmm.
If you are just a casual animation fan, or if like you're an anime fan, you probably watched it. Or if you're a Miyazaki fan, you probably already watched it. But either or, go watch this film. It is amazing.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and play our bumpers here so you know where you can send us money for our Patreon and stuff like that, and who else you should be listening to. But join us on the other side of the bumpers, and we will get to spoiling this thing.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
This week, we suggest the Retro Rewind podcast. Every other week, join the Retro Rewind pod as they travel back 15 years or more along the entertainment space-time continuum in their mission to review movies and games, establishing what is still worth your time today and what isn't. Expect fun banter and trivial insights from Francisco, Paul, the Master Interrupter Powers, and a rotating cast of guest hosts, all of which are out of time.
The Cellcast would like to thank the following patrons: Josh Adams, Ashley Ruiz, Book of Gaming.
To get your name on the show, plus uncut episodes, early access to the Cellcast Plus reviews, and special art from Jacob, please donate to us on Patreon.
The following is a spoiler-filled review for the movie Spirited Away. Listener discretion is advised. Spirited Away, or as it's known in Japan, Sentu Chihiro no Kamikakushi, which literally means Sen and Chihiro spiriting away.
Oh.
By the way, before we get too far into this, if I mess up any Japanese pronunciations or pretty much anyone else's pronunciations, because there is a name on here I know I'm going to mess up, please forgive me. This movie was, of course, written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, and it is not based on anything. Getting into the cast, we've got Davy Chase, who plays Chihiro and Sen, and she was Lilo in Lilo and Stitch.
Yes. Yeah, you can always tell when Disney did the English dubs of these movies based on the actors, like especially for the main protagonists. Like, oh, they were popular at that time, so like
that's
like,
who was in their stable at the time.
Yeah, because it was funny listening to this. I was like, wait, why does this girl's voice sound so familiar? And when I watched the special features, like, oh my gosh, it's Lilo.
Yep.
I didn't
They
realize
probably literally went from one recording studio to the other. Like,
probably,
all right,
because this was around the same time, I think.
Yeah, they're both released in 2002. And they were both up for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. So
Davy Chase was pretty much guaranteed something.
Yeah,
that year. Jason Marsden played Haku, or also known as the Spirit of the Kohaku River, or God of the Kohaku River in the Japanese version.
And I mentioned this. He is the voice, because I looked it up. He is the voice of Zach. He's the voice of the cat in Hocus Pocus.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Because he was also Max Goof in a Goofy movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he played a dog and a cat.
And
there you go.
And a river.
Slash dragon.
Slash dragon. There we go.
Yeah.
He's covered almost all the animals.
Pretty much. Suzanne Plachette played both Yubaba and Zenibaba. And if you've ever watched the old television show, The Bob Newhart Show, you will know her as Bob's wife, Emily Hartley. David Ogden Steers played Kamaji, who was in the boiler room. And he was Jumba in Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
they're just using all the actors. Hey, come here. We need you for this movie too.
Oh yeah.
No, you're in the recording studio this week. Here, come record these other lines. Paul Eading, who played Chichiaku, which was the kind of main manager of the bathhouse. He was in the Transformers the movie as Perceptor.
Oh, I totally can hear that now. Like listening to that and then listening to the movie. Oh yeah, it's definitely Perceptor.
And speaking of people who were probably in the recording booth that week, John Ratzenberger was the voice of Aniyaku, the assistant manager.
Doesn't he just live at Pixar Studios? They just wake him up when they need.
He did it until they got ready to do Soul, and that's the first one he has not appeared in, and he has not appeared in a Pixar movie since.
Wow.
Yeah, sad.
And I'm annoyed by this.
No more Staple.
Because that was like the game. It's like, which weird character of this is John Ratzenberger playing this time? And I still say Ratatouille is the one it took me the longest to figure it out. But he is, of course, Cliff in Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Bergen, who was the voice of No Face and Aogeru, the frog.
Oh, okay.
He was the voice of Bucky the Squirrel in The Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
Even squirrels
so he was
voice actors.
So he was Alan Tudyk before Alan Tudyk.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Roger Bumpus played Bandai Geru, the foreman, but you might recognize his voice as belonging to Squidward Tentacles in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh,
never watched SpongeBob, but okay.
I will make sure you at least watch one of the movies.
Oh, that'll come up
to torture you.
Oh, thanks. It's got a great cast. I know that.
Yeah. Tara Strong played Bo, the very large baby.
Wait, hold on. Tara Strong did that voice?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But currently she's probably most well known for playing a certain purple princess pony in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Oh, okay.
Harley Quinn.
Princess Twilight Sparkle. And yes, she is also Harley Quinn. So keep in your mind that the Princess of Friendship and Mr. J's right-hand girl are the same person.
Well, that's the beauty of voice acting.
That is true.
And she's like 50 other people you probably have heard before.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Chiklis played Akio Ojino, Chihiro's father. And he played Ben Grimm, the Thing, in both Fantastic Four and Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Fantastic. Also, he was in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, he was the lead in the S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, it's great in that show.
Lauren Hawley played Yuko Ojino, Chihiro's mother. And she played the character Mary in Dumb and Dumber.
Also on The Walking Dead for a couple of seasons. And was married to Jim Carrey briefly.
That makes a certain amount of sense.
Okay.
Jim Ward played the River Spirit, and he was Commissioner Gordon in Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders.
Oh gosh,
fun! That's the Adam West one, right?
Yes, that's the first Adam West one. Yeah,
which we reviewed. So go back and listen to those.
Those two movies are great, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Jack Angel played the Radish Spirit, but he also played a character in the Transformers, the movie, Astro Train. The stupidest Transformer, in my opinion.
Did you mention Susan Egan, who was also in Porco Rosso and is a legendary Broadway actress?
I may have jumped over that for some odd reason, because I know I had her in here. Yes, for some reason I did. Susan Egan played Lynn, which was Chihiro's mentor, and she was Meg in Hercules.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Belle in the Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently voices a character in the Steven universe. I've never watched that show, but I know it has a big fan base.
I haven't either.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get into that show, but it just didn't
jive with you.
Jive with me. That's a good enough term. Getting into the Kingdom Hearts connections, Tara Strong, who was Bo in this movie, is Final Fantasy X's Riku in Kingdom Hearts.
Huh.
Susan Egan, who was Lynn in this movie, is also, of course, Megara in Kingdom Hearts. David Ogden Steers, I said his name wrong, who was Kamaji here, was Cogsworth and Jumba and Doc in Kingdom Hearts. D. Bradley Baker, who played a character named Kashira in this, and I couldn't remember who that was, but he was Waka in Kingdom Hearts.
Waka Waka.
John Ratzenberger, who played Aniyaku here, is Ham in Kingdom Hearts.
Uh-huh.
And in the Japanese version of Kingdom Hearts, or in the Japanese version of this movie, Miyu Arino, who played the Japanese version of Haku. He is the Japanese version of Sora in Kingdom Hearts.
Oh.
So that's like the second time we've actually, because we did have one episode of Lower Decks where we
That's right.
brought that in. But anyway, that brings me to the end of our cast list. What do we got in info and stuff?
All right. So info and stuff. IMDb, it has a 8.6 out of 10. It's available if you subscribe to HBO Max. Obviously, we watched it on physical media, which be like for most movie fans is like physical media rules. But hey, if you like streaming, you like streaming.
Sometimes it's more convenient.
That is true. That is so true. Do I really want to
And
pull out a
cheaper.
disc and just play it on whatever platform? Produced by Studio Ghibli, distributed originally in Japan through Toho. Did I say it right? Toho?
Yeah, it's Toho,
Toho.
Mhm.
I always get those mixed up.
the people who made Godzilla. Yes.
Yeah. Roar. All right. So originally brought over from the United States by Disney. And then
And they are the ones who produced the dub.
Yeah, most of recent dub. And then G Kids recently redid it. Or not redid it, but they re-released
They
it.
released it. Yeah.
They have the distribution rights now, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
And they pretty much do an
unlike
annual
Yeah.
release in theaters, don't they?
Yes, they do. But
Mhm.
unlike with Kiki's delivery service, they did not take out their added lines in the G Kids version that was in the Disney version. Kiki at least fixed it because they really messed that up in Kiki. But anyway,
Yeah, I was talking with a friend of mine. So she was me like, oh, I love this movie. I love Spirited Away. And apparently it was in theaters this week, but I didn't know about it.
I didn't see that either.
So going back to info and stuff. It was originally released on July 20th, 2001 in Japan, and then September 20th, 2002, the year later in America. All right, box office, originally in Japan, it grossed a record 1.6 billion yen, which translates to $13.1 million in its first 3 weeks. And its overall gross was 224 million in Japan. Now going to the United States, it had original budget when it was being produced of estimated $19 million. Its opening weekend for United States and Canada was $449,839,000. On September 22nd, its gross was $13.7 million, and its worldwide gross was $355.7 million. For home release, Spirited Away was first released on VHS and DVD format in Japan by Buena Vista Home Entertainment on July 19, 2002, selling 1.5 million home video units in Japan by 2007. The home release on Blu-ray and Walt Disney Studio Japan was on July 17th, 2014, and the DVD was also reissued on the same day with a new high-definition master along with several other Studio Ghibli movies. In North America, the film was released on DVD and Blu-ray format by Walt Disney Home Entertainment on April 15th, 2023. The movie was released on Blu-ray 2003. That's
Okay.
all. I always
we're
do
not
that.
to 2023 yet.
We're close. We're very close.
Did you time travel and pick up a new copy of it?
Apparently.
It was a little wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Well, that's probably next week. But anyway,
All right. The film was released on Blu-ray in North America by Walt Disney Studio home release on June 16th, 2015. G-Kids and Shout Factory reissued the film on Blu-ray and DVD on October 17th, 2017, following Disney's prior deal with Studio Ghibli in North America. Its release was handled through G-Kids' exclusive North America distribution partner, Universal Pictures Home Entertainment. On November 12th, 2019, G-Kids and Shout Factory issued the North American exclusive Spirit Away Collection Edition in the United States. In 2015, the Blu-ray grossed over 9.9 million from 618,000 physical units sold as of February 21st, 2021. So yeah, that's all I have for info and stuff.
All right.
I'd like to give a shout out, no pun intended, to Shout Factory. They're a great home video company. They mostly deal with horror films from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but they do a collection of really great genre films, and it's basically the Criterion collection for cheesy horror films. But if you're a big John Carpenter fan like me, like they have pretty much his whole library too.
All right.
Good to know.
Getting into the summary of this film. 10-year-old Chihiro Ogino and her parents are traveling to their new home when her father decides to take a shortcut. The father's car stops in front of a tunnel leading to what appears to be an abandoned amusement park, which Chihiro's father insists on exploring, despite his daughter's protest. They find a seemingly empty restaurant still stocked with food, which Chihiro's parents immediately begin to eat. While exploring further, Chihiro reaches an enormous bathhouse and meets a boy named Haku, who warns her to return across the riverbed before sunset. However, Chihiro discovers that her parents have been transformed into pigs, and she is unable to cross the now flooded river. Haku finds Chihiro and instructs her to ask for a job from the bathhouse's boilerman, Kamaji, a yokai commanding the Susuwatari. I believe that's the soot monster, the soot sprites. Kamaji refuses to hire her and asks worker Lin to send Chihiro to Yubaba, the witch who runs the bathhouse. Yubaba tries to frighten Chihiro away, but she persists and is eventually given a working contract. Yubaba takes away the second kanji of her name, renaming her Sen. While visiting her parents' pig pen, Sen realizes that she has already forgotten her real name. Haku warns her that Yubaba controls people by taking their names, and that if she forgets hers like he has forgotten his, she will never be able to leave the spirit world. Sen faces discrimination from the other workers. Only Kamaji and Lin show sympathy for her. While working, she invites a silent creature named No Face inside, believing him to be a customer. A sink spirit arrives as Sen's first customer, and she discovers that he is the spirit of a polluted river. In gratitude for cleaning him, he gives Sen a magic emetic dumpling. However, No Face imitates the gold left behind by the river spirit and tempts the worker with it, then swallowing him. No Face demands food from the bathhouse and begins giving away extensive amounts of gold to its workers. Sen sees Paper Shikigami attacking a dragon and recognizes the dragon as Haku metamorphosed. When a grievously injured Haku crashes into Yubaba's penthouse, Sen follows him upstairs. A Shikigami that's stowed away on her back shapeshifts into Zenibaba, Yubaba's twin sister. She turns Yubaba's son Bo into a mouse and creates a false copy of him. Zenibaba tells Sen and Haku has stolen a magic golden seal from her and warns Sen that it carries a deadly curse. Haku strikes the Shikigami, causing Zeniba to vanish. He falls into the boiler room with Sen, where she feeds him part of the emetic dumpling, causing him to vomit up the seal and a black slug, which Sen crushes with her foot. With Haku unconscious, Sen resolves to return the seal and apologize to Zenibaba. Sorry, I keep saying Zenibaba. I think it's just Zeniba. But anyway, Sen confronts an engorged No Face and feeds him the rest of the dumpling. No Face follows Sen out of the bathhouse, steadily regurgitating everything that he has eaten. Sen, No Face, and Bo travel to see Zeniba with train tickets given to her by Kamaji. Meanwhile, Yubaba orders that Sen's parents be slaughtered, but Haku reveals that Bo is missing and serves to retrieve him if Yubaba releases Sen and her parents. Yubaba agrees, but only if Sen can pass the final test. Sen meets with Zeniba, who makes her a magic hairband and reveals that Yubaba used the black slug to take control over Haku. Haku appears at Zeniba's house in his dragon form and offers to fly them home. No-Face decides to stay behind with Zeniba and become her spinner, while Sen and Bo leave with Haku for the bathhouse. In mid-flight, Sen recalls falling years ago into the Kohaku River and being washed safely ashore, correctly guessing Haku's real identity as the spirit of the Kohaku River. When they arrive at the bathhouse, Yubaba forces Sen to identify her parents from among a group of pigs in order to leave. After she answers correctly that none of the pigs are her parents, her contract disappears and she is given back her real name. Haku takes her to the now dry riverbed and vows to meet her again. Chihiro crosses the riverbed to her restored parents, who do not remember anything after eating at the restaurant stall. They walk back through the tunnel after they reach their car, now covered in dust and leaves. Before getting in, Chihiro looks back at the tunnel, her hair tie from Zeniba still intact. Getting into the trivia for this. Despite having a rich plot with developed characters, Spirited Away was not made with a script. In fact, Miyazaki's films never had scripts. He said, this is a quote from him, "I don't have a story finished and ready when we start work on a film. I usually don't have the time, so the story develops when I start drawing storyboards. The production starts very soon thereafter, while the storyboards are still developing." Miyazaki says Miyazaki does not know where the plot is going, and he lets it happen organically. He says, "It's not me who makes the film makes itself, and I have no choice but to follow." Which explains how stuff like, for instance, I recently read the book Kiki's Delivery Service, and the ending is a lot different from the movie. It starts the same, but it ends a lot differently, which explains that.
That just explains the nature of his storytelling too, that he lets his artwork kind of feed the narrative, because most of his films kind of feel like they're just flowing, like you're just following it. Like they're very, for the most part, Miyazaki's films are, even though there's like a lot going on, it's usually like, oh, I can chill and just watch this and just be in the moment. Also might be why there's so many scenes of people eating food.
I think so. And a lot of atmospheric scenes of just existing in this moment for a couple minutes before we get back to the plot. Anyway, the cleansing of the river spirit is based on a real-life incident in Hayao Miyazaki's life, in which he participated in the cleaning of a river, removing, among other things, a bicycle. Although Hayao Miyazaki has considered retiring after completing Princess Mononoke, he was inspired to make this film after seeing a friend's sullen 10-year-old daughter. To do the voice of Chihiro's mother talking while eating, actress Yasuko Sawaguchi actually spoke the dialogue while eating a piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
You know, that not only is that funny, but to me, Miyazaki kind of looks a little bit like Colonel Sanders to me.
Yeah.
You're not kidding. Wow.
Actress Lauren Hawley, who was did the English version of that character, did the same thing, but with an apple.
Yeah.
Instead of chicken.
Nom, 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 nom.
In the scene which Chihiro squashes the small worm-like thing that inhabited Haku with her foot, that Kamaji tells Chihiro to cut the line. Cutting the line is a Japanese good luck charm performed by making a chopping gesture through another person's connected index fingers. This is done whenever someone is affected by some impurity. During footage of the dubbing process in the Spirited Away Nippon TV special, Rumi Hiragi, who was the Japanese actress for Chihiro, was not aware of this concept and had it explained to her by Hayao Miyazaki. One of the sound engineers commented, "The young don't know it these days." There are several instances in the English dubbed version where dialogue was added in that was not present in the original Japanese release. According to John Lasseter, who directed the English dub, he explained that it was a necessary addition to help clarify certain elements for American audiences. For example, What is clearly a bathhouse to a Japanese viewer might not be apparent to an American viewer, so the translation issue was fixed by having the character say, "Oh, it's a bathhouse." I have some opinions about this later on, by the way.
Okay.
This is a little teaser for later. This was the first anime film to be nominated for and win an Academy Award. It also has the longest runtime of any other film nominated for that award and winning in that category at 125 minutes. The characters in Spirited Away reflect their names reflect who they are. Bo means little boy or son. Kamaji means old boiler man. Yubaba means bathhouse crone. Zaniba means money crone. The heroine Chihiro means 1,000 fathoms or searches, while her worker name Sen just means 1,000. The theme of Not Looking Back is an homage to the Shinto myth of Izanagi and Izanami escaping from the underground world of death, Yomi Kuni, which is very similar to the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. But I was also reminded of Lot's wife.
Yeah.
That came to my mind also. Well, it's a little bit different because that was... Anyway. Many of the characters in the animation are based on Shinto myth and have Shinto gods' names. For example, Haku's true name, Nigi Hayami Kohaku Kunushi, and I definitely said that wrong, is taken from an actual god's name, Nigi Hayahi. And No Face is an original character created by Hayao Miyazaki that previously didn't exist in Japanese mythology.
Now it does.
And now it's at Hot Topics and tattoos everywhere.
Yeah. In the English language version, John Ratzenberger, who played Aniyaku, completely improvised the ditty he sings when he is extolling the virtues of the rich customer No Face.
Oh, gosh, yes. That was hilarious.
The original script song was something along the line of, "Welcome the rich man, he's pretty big. You see, so all bow down and get on bended knee." Whereas John Ratzenberger's was more, "Welcome the rich man, he's hard for you to miss."
He's got all the gold, bow down to him.
The dragon Haku's movements were based on the twisting motions of an eel swimming. For the
I can see that.
For the scenes when he is being attacked, Miyazaki brought up the example of a live eel in a fish market before gutting.
Oh.
When he found none of his animators had ever witnessed this before, Miyazaki sarcastically commented, "Japanese culture is doomed." And that brings
such
me
a
to the end
grump
of the trivia. Cody, since you are our guest, what is your first like for this film?
I think I said it in the non-spoiler, but I just love how it just enraptures you in the world and how much world building there is without having to explain everything. It's just there as you watch it. It's just a feast of the imagination. And it's really the top of its game. Like, it's not my personal favorite Miyazaki or Ghibli movie, but you can't deny the craftsmanship in this movie.
Jacob?
My first like will be the opening. The opening of this movie is so well done. It's like one artistic masterpiece. Just like, be like, can we just freeze frame, put this in, digital high definition and put it on some really, really good stock paper and be like, put it on a wall. Amazing. But this movie takes, and be like, there's no in-betweeners, no nothing when it comes to like getting into the heart of the story. And be like, it shoots for the heart, it shoots for the gut. And it's not like, oh, we're gonna spend 10 minutes like setup. It's like, nope, characters come in, go into the world, everything goes crazy, and it's just an amazing opening to this film. And it's so, I'll be like, I know other films have done this, but how Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, yes, I said it right, with this opening there, it's just be like you go straight into the story. It gives you a little setup and just boom, floors it right into the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't stop. And that's what I love about it. Like this, the movie's opening is so well done, animation wise, story wise. They don't try to, you know, fill in little gaps here and there with little bits of story, but it's just like they give you introduction to the character, introduction what they're doing, and just goes into the story. And it's so well done. That's my number one, is the opening. I love how this movie opens.
My first like is going to be the use of both the 2D and the 3D animation, how they mix.
Okay.
The first shot that comes to my mind, though, is like you said at the very beginning, when they're speeding down that old dirt road, and she looks out the window and sees that statue, and you could tell that had to have been it looked like it was a 3D shot to me, but how it rotated around there, I thought that was breathtaking. There's a couple other spots where I thought it did a very good job. The only one where it didn't work so well is when they're running through the I guess the flower bushes on their way to the pig pen. And they copied, and they did that twice, and both times that it looked, I don't know if they just didn't finish with it or if it just needed some more polish or something, but that was probably the weaker one of those.
Okay.
But so many other things like the stink spirit and all of its goo and tentacles and such, and the use of the so much of that, the 3D animation melded so well in the 2D, it's almost hard to see it sometimes. But yeah, I enjoyed the mixture of 2D and 3D animation in this film. Cody, what's your second like?
You know, watching all these movies about a year and a half ago, and I'm just a sucker for a story that takes somebody goes to like the country or a farmhouse and like just that kind of story. So I love that that's a staple, and just the mixing and the metaphors here. Like Miyazaki continues with like talking about how technology and the new world is kind of killing our way of life, and especially the old world, even though he's mixing like this mythological world. But when you find out that Haku was a river, and he's like, I can't go back home, and she's like, they built an apartment complex where the river used to be. Like he's clearly making statements about like the ramifications of like industrialization in our modern world, killing like these older ways of thinking, and not just with like fantasy and reality, and like the old world's dying with the new world. And this is very much what he talks about, and the environment, and it's just really potent here. And and even them taking like the where they cross is like an abandoned amusement park, right? That's the kind of realm where you cross into one world to the other. I think that's deliberate, that it's an abandoned amusement park, because an amusement park is a place where you go to escape reality and have fun. And I just really love that this is consistent throughout his career and his films, and it is one of the highest. It's not as pessimistic of a film as, say, Mononoke or Nausicaa, and not as it's like a good mixture between that meeting Totoro or Ponyo, like those themes in those movies. But yeah, I think this is Miyazaki at the top of his game. He said, I was going to retire, but hold my sake. I got something even better.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you that. Oh my gosh, yes. The point where Miyazaki, like you said, like the parallels, like he's talking about modernization is killing tradition. The thing that I always think of, and the movie is escaping me. I'm losing nerd points for not remembering an animated movie title. It's a Ghibli film we've reviewed already, but it's about the I want to say not raccoons.
Pompoko.
Yes, Pompoko.
So like that was the word you were looking for. Tanuki was the word you were looking for.
Tanuki. Mario. That's what I think.
Is his name Asio Takada? Is that his name?
Isao Takahata, I believe.
Yeah, the second most prominent filmmaker in Ghibli's library. Yeah, that's similar to, I think, that film.
That actually took place in a real neighborhood in Tokyo, because I looked that up on a map because I was curious if it was a fictionalized area or not. And yeah, it does not look like the forest you see at the beginning of that film.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah, there's so many parallels. Like, you watch most of his films, there's kind of an environmental industrialization of the world, and it's like slowly taking away what traditional historical places and putting in more modern. And like I think in the trivia we're talking about how it was more like how the younger generation doesn't know about the past.
Yeah.
And I'm for a history guy like me, I absolutely be like, yes, talk about history, talk about the good, definitely talk about the bad, because if you don't remember the bad and the bad comes up again, you won't know about it.
Well, that's why we keep repeating the same mistakes
That's true.
in the world, right? Because we want to sweep that stuff under the rug, right?
Agreed,
not talk about it, instead of being like, hey, this was bad, we shouldn't have done it, let's learn from our mistakes, instead of like, oh no, that didn't happen, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, because we're so like, yeah, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that, but then at the same time we're basically setting ourselves up, the next generation, to fall into that same trap. And there's numerous examples of that. So
yeah,
it's always good to talk about the past, good and bad, and learn from that. And Miyazaki does that very well.
So my second dislike kind of dovetails into that a little bit. I really enjoyed Chihiro's growth over the course of this movie.
Agreed.
Because when the movie starts, she is a spoiled brat, to put it as nicely as I can. But she has to learn over the course of the film that, there are people who she does have to show respect for. There are ways of doing things that will actually get stuff done instead of trying to just bullhead your way through everything. And by the end, the way her growth throughout this in learning about the world that she's gotten sucked into and able to successfully even leave at the end of it. I appreciated seeing that in this film. And I really enjoyed her character growth in this, because it could be very easy for her not to have any character growth.
That is true.
Yeah. And I would, the two American, the one's not actually American, it's British, but it's been made into American films. But the two kind of fantasy stories this kind of is similar to for Western audiences, The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. And I would say the protagonist's growth here is much stronger in this film than it would be for Dorothy or Alice.
I agree.
Like, you see a full character growth. We don't know how long she's been there, but like, it's long enough that she like learns and grows as a human being.
I am picturing it at about a week.
Okay, well, that's a lot of growth in a week.
It's a lot of growth in a week. And the only reason I am saying that is, there was a lot of grass that grew up outside of the amusement park when they left, but I'm thinking it had to have taken. There's not enough events for it to not be any more than a week, I don't think.
Well, hopefully those movers had a key to the house, or they just left all this stuff in the yard.
They said they had a key to the house. My question is there anyone who's tried to call on them in the past week and doesn't know where they are? So obviously, no one's gone up that dirt road in the last little bit.
Also, they said they built everything in the 90s, and this is what, 2001, 2002?
Yeah,
man,
2001.
Man. Well, I think there was an economic boom in like the early 90s, so that would make sense in Japan, I mean. So that would make
Okay.
sense that would be when they might have built a bunch of amusement parks. Of course, the one I'm thinking of is, I think it's called Dreamland. That was originally started as a Disney theme park before Disney pulled out and made Tokyo Disneyland. Whatever the name of the Tokyo one is. Yeah. But the guy who was running it still continued on. And that's now an abandoned theme park. And so that's the thing that crosses my mind with that. But anyway.
Okay. I was just thinking that's a big turnaround, like barely a decade, if less than a decade.
Yeah. I don't know. That decade seemed pretty long to me at the time.
Agreed. As a kid, oh my gosh, the 90s took forever. And then you get now in your like late 40s or late 30s going into your 40s. Like, man, the 2010s and the 2020s are just,
they feel like they were yesterday.
Yeah, they feel like they're yesterday. Yep. Well, when you're a kid, the 90s summers took forever. And sometimes I wish we could go back to that, but you know, that's not the way the world works,
unfortunately.
Yes.
Anyway, well, we got dislikes as much as we like this film to talk about. So, Cody, what was your first dislike?
Oh my God, I really don't know if I have a dislike. Maybe you guys tell me some of yours to see if it generates something for me, because I've been racking my head all day since I watched it this morning. I was like, what is in this that I don't like? I mean, maybe that she's kind of bratty at the beginning, but I think that's the reason of the story, right?
Yeah.
Is for her. I mean, that's about it, but I mean also,
if she wasn't bratty at the beginning, she would have had no growth. So
that is true.
Exactly. And also, you know, put your place in her shoes. You know, you're 10 years old. Your parents are, when you move at a young age, your whole world is turned upside down. You think the world is over, right?
Yeah.
And they're moving her to the middle of nowhere, and like all her friends, everything she knows. So you kind of see why she's bratty. And I mean, it's not as bad as some other movies with kids being bratty. But yeah, I guess if I had to find something that's a little annoying, but like you said, there would be no growth if you didn't start there, because what would be the point of the story?
Yeah.
The only one I could think of would be I don't know, I'd be like, it's good storytelling, or either first time watching this film, be like there was maybe a little confusion here and there. But there again, great story. The only problem was it was like, okay, who is she supposed to trust in this movie? The guy who came and saved her, the guy she's kind of fallen in love with in a way, because Miyazaki doesn't really do the love story kind of thing. But
which I appreciate that about him.
Yeah. Even when he does a love story, it's more of growing up together instead of more lovey-dovey.
Yeah,
exactly. There's hardly any romantic like love in his stories. And a lot of times it's because they're kids, so we're not going to go there. And other times it's like, that's not the character's growth and where the story's going.
True. I think it's what that's what I enjoy about Miyazaki films, because it does take a different route, because we're talking about children and not talking about teenagers or adults.
Right.
But I think it was more maybe the confusion be like, who does Sin really be like? Who does she really trust in this movie? Does she trust the boy who came to her rescue and she has a connection with somehow? And there's like all these, like you feel like Sin in this movie. It's like, who do I trust in this film? But she's like openly like trust everybody kind of story. But I know that's not really a dislike, but it was more like maybe some slight confusion going into this film. I'm like, who as the audience member, who do I trust? But they automatically.
Well, to comment on what you're saying,
yes,
this film does not really have a villain character.
No, there isn't.
We've got some different characters act as antagonists from time to time, and Yababa is probably the closest thing I would say call a main antagonist.
Agreed.
But even she, from time to time, is just like she feels like an ally as much as anybody else does.
Agreed.
Throughout this film, even Zaniba has the same does the same thing. There's the reason there is confusion is because the situation is the problem, not any one character.
I agree with you there. I would agree
which is
with you there.
odd for an animated film.
Yeah, you're literally thrown into a fantasy world where you have no basis of anything, and so you have no basis to trust anybody. But Sin does. He does want to trust everybody, and they wind up just falling for her as a character, and just follow her to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
I think you're placed in her shoes, so she's confused and bombarded and not sure where to go. And like, well, this person told me to trust this person, and this person told me to go to that person, and most of them turn out to help her. Like the boiler room guy tells her to go visit the sister, and like, what is the lady's name that helps her or becomes like Lynn? Yeah,
Lynn.
Like all these
Ren in the Japanese version, but
okay. But yeah, most of the characters do end up wanting to help her because either they end up liking her, or they feel sorry for her, or yeah. But I get what you're saying, because you're like, well, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? But really, there isn't any who's good, who's bad. They all have their intentions and their needs and what they want out of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. So yeah, I think that was the only real like jumping into the movie, because how the story is played out and how you are immersed in the world. It's like you're automatically in Sin's shoes, and you're like, I don't know who to trust in this movie. So by the end of it, you wind up trusting everybody. Or everybody winds up trusting you,
right?
Because you wind up being the person who's the key to everything. So yeah, I know it's not really much of it's kind of a fusion of the two. I don't know what to do with it.
It's a backhanded dislike.
It's
maybe.
Yeah, it's not okay. Anyways,
my first dislike for this, kind of jumping off yours. See, the thing is, that confusion you talked about, I think it helps the story.
Agreed, it does.
So the fact that when Disney did the dub for this, they added lines that to help American audiences understand some of the things that they were seeing that the Japanese audience would probably know just by looking at it. I hate this concept because I don't really think there's anything here that you can't pick up on fast enough just by context.
I agree, especially
the bathhouse may be like the closest thing, because we don't have those bathhouses here in America like they would in Japan. But I'd like to point out that one of the
sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, you're fine. I was just want to point out that at least Pokemon, in one of their games, when they had a time when you went to a bathhouse, they didn't bother to have to tell you what it was. You kind of knew.
Right. I think even if you've never seen it, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is a place people go to take a bath.
Yeah. It's admittedly, from an American perspective, this is kind of a weird thing, but I can kind of see it when you are, kind of sort of thrown back in time to this other thing. I can see how this might have developed in a culture. So the fact that you have to explain that it's a bathhouse and we can't tell just by looking. I mean, admittedly, from the outside, you don't need to know it's a bathhouse. You just need to know, hey, here's a structure that has smoke coming out of it. That means there's civilization here. Of course, she's going to be interested in it because she's trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
And she doesn't need to know it's a bathhouse until she has to go clean the tubs, to be honest. So we don't need to know it's a bathhouse till that point. So the fact that, and I will fully blame this on Disney at the time, not having enough faith in an American audience to be able to figure out from context those things. I think they could have I don't think they could have had to explain it to us like we were stupid, basically.
And
there's a couple of times the Disney dub does this.
Yeah. I think that's the other beautiful thing about Miyazaki. I'm jumping off of your complaint of the dub of this movie. Is Miyazaki makes films that are for families,
Mm-hmm.
but he does not dumb down the material to make children enjoy it.
Right.
He tells the story and for children to enjoy on one level, and it's good for adults to enjoy on another level. And he also doesn't put in crude humor for adults to be like, oh, they put that in there where kids won't get it. Ha ha ha. Like, no, he just tells quality storytelling and doesn't hold people's hands like, here, let me tell you this story. Like, no, this is the story. And he recognizes children aren't stupid, which sometimes American filmmakers or studios think they are.
Most irritating part of most American films.
Now, I will say this, even though I hate the script, the additions of those things in the script, I think the recording of those lines was done pretty well, and to a point where it did not stand out to me that those lines were added in after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go back, and admittedly, I have yet to go back and watch the Japanese version of the film yet, but the fact that they even thought that you have to make these changes, otherwise the Americans won't understand what's going on, is kind of what annoys me. Especially at a time when we're watching, when on TV you have things like Dragon Ball Z, which just shows random Japanese stuff and doesn't bother to explain any of it.
Yeah, I agree, though I do think Disney does a phenomenal job overall with these dubs, especially because before the dubs were atrocious. I've never seen them, but I've heard about some of the earlier Ghibli films that were dubbed that were just like terrible.
Some of them were more Americanized than others. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or really
like
Britishized because it was a British company that did them.
I
but still
saw a scene from Porco Rosso that was just horrible.
Oh, if you ever want fun, go look up the Harmony Gold dub of Dragon Ball Z. That is horrifically bad and yet funny at the same time.
I think of when I think like terrible. It's like, oh, let's Americanize this for an American audience because Americans won't get Japanese culture.
Please tell me you're about to talk about Brock's Jelly Donuts.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. I never watched Pokemon growing up because I was a Digimon fan, but I have heard of this. Oh, look at this jelly donut. I'm like,
and it's literally
that's a rice ball.
They didn't even edit the video. It's just like, oh, yes, we've got these jelly donuts. It's like, even as a kid, I know that's not a jelly donut. That's a rice ball.
Because American kids have never seen rice.
Apparently. Granted, I would have looked at it and gone, that's a weird looking dish. I wonder what that is. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We're about to have a Pokemon fight. But anyway.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Where were we?
Your dislike.
I just finished my second dislike of the Disney dub. Cody, what did you think of anything for your second dislike?
No, honestly, I don't. I'm sorry. I can't no. This movie's magical. I can't think of anything to hate on.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat with you, Cody. It's just like there is nothing else in this film that I would literally have to go back and rewatch the film and be hypercritical of every single scene, every frame to find something to critique about it. But from this first viewing, it's a solid film.
I mean, the baby's kind of creepy, but I think that's supposed to be the point.
Are you looking at my show notes?
I don't know how I could do that. I mean, I guess I have mind powers. You know, I'm bald. I guess I have those mind powers.
It's Xavier.
No, I do have one other dislike and one nitpick that I can talk about.
Oh, okay.
If that's helpful. But yeah, my second one is that the character of Bo, the baby, is completely unnecessary for this film. It doesn't change anything about the plot if you were to remove his scenes, other than it doesn't give it doesn't sweeten up Yubaba's position any if he's not there. And she just seems like an old angry woman if you don't have her at least there loving on her child.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you were to take him out of this film, about the only thing it would change is you'd have to come up with some other reason for her not to go ahead and slaughter Chihiro's parents before Chihiro got back.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of annoyed that his character is for the most part useless.
Okay, I guess you're right, but I think maybe Miyazaki just like had a vision of a giant baby and was like, "Oh, we got to put that in the movie. How do we put this giant baby in the movie?"
And I get that. I just wish it had been more. It worked more into the film.
I get you. Like it was more part of the plot instead of just the device to have to get.
Yeah.
For her to hold off on killing her parents.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the next step is. The next step rating the movie, or we got more to.
I am going to mention my one little nitpick,
Go for
because
it.
we have time.
So nitpick away.
Yeah, my nitpick. Why did her work clothes, her uniform there, not include sandals?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because when she goes
has to go back and get her shoes and socks that the Sith sprites head for.
You're right. When she goes to meet him at the bridge, she's barefoot. But everybody else is wearing sandals, right?
That is true. Good observation.
So why did hers not include sandals? Because
I guess
there's
she's
plenty
the
of times
newbie.
where there's plenty of times.
I guess maybe they didn't have sandals, or they don't. They're like, oh,
I mean,
stinky human, you don't get shoes.
I get it that in Japanese culture, you don't wear shoes past like the entryway of a house, and that even in their schools they have like special slippers that they wear in the school, or at least that's what it looks like on anime. I'll admit that's where my knowledge comes from. But I would think even in that situation, there are times where, as essentially the lowest of the lowest worker in that bathhouse, she would have to do stuff that was outside on the ground. So she should need shoes from time to time, even if for the most part she is stuck in the bathhouse itself. I just realized she's a lower decker.
Oh my gosh, she's a lower decker.
She is a lower decks.
But she is literally the best lower decker.
Right. But anyway, that's like I said, that's a nitpick. It really doesn't change anything. It's just a weird observation I made. So, yeah. Next, we do have our ratings. So, Cody, what would you rate this movie?
So it's a 1 out of 10, right?
0.5 out of 10. I would say 0.0 as we have rated something that low, but I doubt this is going to be anywhere near it.
So I want to read an excerpt of a review, just the opening paragraph. It's not long. And it was shared on a podcast called Blank Check, which does directors. And they did all the work of Miyazaki. This was a review written by a film critic called Nigel Andrews back in 2002 or 2003. And he said, yes, that's right. 6 stars. Exception must be made for the exceptional. Spirited Away is a feast of wonderment, a movie classic, and a joy that will enrich your existence until you are spirited away. He gave it 6 out of 5 stars. So I don't know if I'm going to quite go to the same route and say 11, but I will say this is definitely a 10. I think this is a masterpiece.
All right.
I am definitely going to give this a 9.5. It is just a brilliant film, wonderfully well done. Normally, I don't really give 10s to like a bunch of films. I've given a 10 to one film, which I probably, in retrospect, I probably rated a little bit lower, but it was still great. But this is definitely one of those, high echelon kind of films that everybody needs to go watch. Like, be like, if you're a movie buff, go watch it. If you're an animation fan, go watch it. Great film. 9.5. Be like, it is skimming that 10 point score, but it is just phenomenal storytelling, phenomenal character design. Animation is just like, whoa, incredible. But there again, this is Hayao Miyazaki. Let me say that right. And Studio Ghibli at its best. That's why they won an award for this movie. So yeah, 9.5.
I'm also going to give it a 9.5. The reason I am not rating it a 10 is because honestly, I have no idea where I've rated any of the other Miyazaki films, and I don't want to risk rating it higher than those I really consider more my favorites, because as much as I like this film, it is not one of my favorites. But it's still a very good movie. It's very high up there. It's a definite watch. Yeah, 9.5.
Do you think it deserved the win for best animated film?
Considering we do know at least it was going up against Lilo and Stitch, I would love to know Jacob's answer for this.
Wow, that is
because if you can't tell, Jacob really likes Lilo and Stitch.
No, I couldn't tell at all. I thought that was just some weird plush she had over there.
Oh my gosh, I have so much Stitch merchandise, it's not even funny. But oh my gosh, that is like, after watching this film and having the love and fondness I have for Lilo and Stitch, oh my gosh, that is be like, you're putting me in a spot, man. This is too tight.
I know. That's why
we're making you choose between your favorite children.
If you, yours is going to be the more interesting answer, if we're being honest.
Oh my
That's why
gosh!
I want to hear yours.
On the spot now, I feel like a guest. Now I know what it feels like. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would be like, personally, I would go with Lilo and Stitch because I love that story. I'd be like, it's not saying that this movie is like less in any ways, but to me, Lilo and Stitch is a better film. But that's just
okay.
I'm going to give it to Spirited Away.
Okay, fair.
Because Lilo and Stitch's edits that were made to it after most of the film was done because of September 11th,
right,
and a couple other questionable original decisions like the washing machine, those edits kind of lower the quality of that film just enough that this film really, I think, would deserve an Academy Award over it.
So here's what it was up against: Ice Age, Lilo and Stitch, Spirit the Stallion of Cimarron, sorry if I've said that wrong, I haven't seen that one, and Treasure Planet.
Oh,
Treasure
Planet?
Wait.
Yeah.
There were, that's also Disney. So Disney had 3 films that it put out for Academy Award that year. That's crazy.
That's wow.
I would say that Spirited Away deserves the win because what it does, not just for the art form of animation, but its storytelling and like its lasting effect in our pop culture subconscious. Like, it's everywhere. It is, and it definitely, I would think this movie helped generate anime more popular into the Western civilization.
Yeah,
I mean, it was already popular before, but I think this definitely helped it get even more popular.
Well, this is still at the see, this movie came out in 2003. Two. Okay, yeah, this is still at the head of the anime boom.
Right.
It won't crash. It doesn't crash to like 2008.
Well, I would say this definitely helped tipped it more so.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Lilo and Stitch. It's a very nice, touching, sweet film. But I don't think it's, and that's just personal opinion because we all have those. I don't think it's one of Disney's finest, like, of their wins or like what they have done. But it's definitely one of the better ones from that time period that they were producing. So I think Spirited Away is just it's a step above and beyond these other 4 films.
Right. Anyway, next week we are going to be reviewing another Miyazaki, well, not Miyazaki, but another Studio Ghibli film, a little film called The Cat Returns.
That is bonkers.
the only sequel that Studio Ghibli ever done, and it's not even a direct sequel.
I was fixing to say, it's not really a sequel, is it? Other than the characters briefly shown?
It's a sequel in and of the fact that they took a character from another film and they repurposed them and kept it enough that it may or may not have, the events of the other film may or may not have happened. But otherwise, it has almost nothing to do with the other film.
And really, completely two different energies of a movie, too.
Yes. And I really do prefer Cat Returns over
Whispers from the Heart.
Whispers from the Heart. Yeah.
Wow.
So next week is going to be a good, fun episode. Join us for that. But before we get to that point, we do have 2 episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks to review.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Robotech.
Come on now and set sail for the future. Fly the sky, oh, the lava.
All right, our first episode of tonight, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, directed by Garrick Bernard and written by Jason Zurich. In this episode, Mariner and Boimler are stranded on an uninhabited planet with a sentient computer, and on the Cerritos, Lieutenant Commander Billups must prove his engineering abilities to an old adversary. New cast for this, or guest cast, non-main cast for this episode. Sorry, my brain just went. Anyway, Phil Lamar as Momo, crew member and a computer. We've got Jessica McKenna as computer, Ensign Barnes, and the replicator. June Diane Raphael plays Queen Paolana. Paul Scheer plays, and I'm going to say his full name here, Andarithio Billups. And Kari Walgreen is the Royal Guard and crew member. And this episode does have a special guest star, but this one is a little different than most of Lower Decks' other guest stars, as he is not reprising any of the roles that he played before. But this actor has appeared in like 8 other roles in Star Trek, pretty much being the actor with the most roles in Star Trek at this point, and that is Jeffrey Combs. He is the other characters besides, and he plays Agimus in this, the evil computer. This is the 8th character he's played for the franchise. The others being Andorian Commander Thylek Shran in Enterprise, Wayun 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All of these characters being Vorta clones who were Jim Hadar field supervisors for the Dominion and in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and he also played Liquidator Brunt, FCA, also in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The title is a quote from William Shakespeare's erotic poem, Venus and Adonis. Oh, I did not even know he had one of those. But then I haven't really studied a lot of Shakespeare, to be honest. One of the evil computers that is seen at the Daystrom Institute at the end of the episode has the CBS logo on it. This episode introduces Andy Billups' mother and explores more of Billups' backstory, including his birth name, Andarithio. It explains Ensign Barnes' characterization of Billups in Second Contact, when she says, knowing how to talk to women is kind of that guy's final frontier. Boimler mentioned that sand gave him a rash in Second Contact, but despite being stranded on a desert planet, this never comes up. This is the first episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to feature scenes on or near Earth. And Mariner says that they should just bury Agimus like Data's head was once, and Boimler reminds her that Data's head had been in a cave. This is a reference to the two-part Star Trek Next Generation episode Time's Arrow and Time's Arrow Part 2, where Data's severed head was found in a cave underneath San Francisco among the ruins of the 19th century. It is a weird episode, too, if I remember correctly. Anyway, that's the information I got for this first episode. Cody, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, God. Okay. Confession. I should have read filler. I watched season 3 episodes instead of season 2, but I've seen this, and this is great. I love this show. I think it's a great entryway into Trek if you're a newbie. And I think if you love Trek, this is a great show because not only is it parodying, but it's like a great love letter and has all those wonderful Easter eggs you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And especially them getting Jeffrey Combs to come and do another part and him playing different roles throughout all the different series. That's just wonderful.
All right. Jacob.
Yeah.
So this is my first watching of this. I'll be like me watching this series, you know, as the episodes progress, as the episodes we watch for the show. I'm like, when I first heard the AI robot, I'm thinking like, is that Adam West?
No.
When I first heard it sounded like Adam West. I'm like,
couldn't have been.
It could have been him.
Adam West had passed before this episode.
Agreed. I was like, is that possible? Could he recorded something and now he's like his voice is beyond the grave now? And I was like, no, that's just another actor. But he sounds so much like, you know, the late Adam West. But this was like a really good episode where it was Boimler and Mariner be like you see where they have this conflict between each other, and they've always had a conflict between each other. And where Mariner is like, oh, you know, gets him reassigned because he can't handle this, which I think in truth he could handle it, but it's just more.
But she's still seeing him as season 1 Boimler.
Yeah, not seeing the full potential of who he is as a character. And I think, honestly, I think it's just more Mariner is afraid that he is going to surpass her and then leave. And so she is desperately trying to keep him there because she wants him around as a friend. And honestly, someone to pick on the entire time because that's what Mariner does for him. But I love the I love the point where the AI, you know, evil supercomputer thinks it's got the one up on Boimler, and Boimler's playing him like just like a fiddle the entire time. And I'm thinking like, oh wow, be like, this is really, really good. But when they finally get to the revelation, like, you're not even really hooked into the computer. Be like, you're hooked into this into
the light switch.
You're hooked into a light switch, and it's like, what? No!
I'll blind you.
Here.
Dang it.
That's so well done. It's just like, and it's like, go Boimler. Like Boimler, I love Boimler as a character. And one of the things that got me, I was like, because you never hear, at least in my recall, Mariner ever apologizing for anything. She is like constantly just rah, rah, rah,
yeah,
like just and for once, if I recall correctly, she actually apologized to Boimler. Because like every time, be like, if he mentions the Titan or he mentions going on outings or something like that, because there again, that's hurt to her sensitivity that she's gonna lose Boimler, and her fear of like losing people in her life because they get moved off or reassigned, and she's like, she doesn't want to lose him. And that's more of her the psychological character of her. And I think I like that, even though I am not a fan of Mariner as a character, because she screws up everything. It gets away with everything.
Well, part of that's because she's a Well, are both her parents captains? I know her
Yes.
mom's.
Her mother's a captain, but her dad's an admiral.
Her dad's an admiral. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I do remember this, right? Because Engineer Billups, they go to his home.
Say that again. You broke up.
Isn't this the one where they go to Engineer Billups' home planet and his mom is the queen and
it's not their home planet. It looks like maybe
it's a ship.
The queen's ship.
Okay, yeah.
Her main what do you call that? Her flagship maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been messed up just enough that she has an excuse to get her son to come over to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but that's a ruse.
They happen to be in the area, which even Captain Freeman's like, sure. That's why you're here.
Yeah, that was a good setup. I love that part. And it's like, oh, and then the engineer comes in and it's like, oh, hi, son. What? and then you get this weird backstory of him and be like, he's a prince, but I'm not gonna have sex. I'm not gonna become the king. You can't make me mom.
I'm not good enough to be an engineer because I let my friend get blown up. Admittedly, when I watched, I thought, there's no way you just killed Rutherford.
No
He's
way.
a major character, and he went. And if he really died here, he died the way Tasha Yar did. and thankfully, no, that's not what happened.
Yes,
but I
such a good ruse.
I just love the whole idea that this entire society is based off Renaissance fair.
That was hilarious.
All the names of the science to make it sound magical.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was funny.
But I will bring up one other little thing in dealing with this episode with Mariner and Boimler's side of the story. This might be, especially in the rewatch, since I have seen, up to the end of the last episode that came out. I find it interesting how they're already kind of playing into this idea that AI may not be a good thing, especially when you consider that that's what has to happen 4 years late after this episode on when you've not watched Picard. I know that. And you're not in a hurry to watch Picard.
No.
And if you hadn't, a part of the setup of that show is, if you remember from the 2009 Star Trek movie, the Romulans and Spock got thrown back in time because of the explosion of the Romulan star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they knew this was coming for a while, and so Picard had got put in charge of the setup to help get all the Romulans off of Romulus before the star blew up. But standard Romulan, what's the word I'm looking for? Secretiveness. What's the word? What is the word when you're it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The Romulans made it super hard for them to get anyone out of there because the Romulans are so secretive about everything. And at some point, because of a secretive sect of the Romulan population, they blew up the shipyards at Mars, where all the ships get built there in Star Trek. And they used androids to do it. And after that point, there is a ban on creating synthetic life forms. And I kind of am wondering if this is helping to lead into that kind of plot, since when all that happens is only 4 years after this episode.
Oh, okay.
Especially considering what will happen at the end of season 3.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's fixed. It is like, I'm not going to spoil, but I'm they bring this up again in season 3.
Yes. And if you really stop and think about it, it came up in season 1 with Badgie.
Oh, Badgie. So this
and don't forget Peanut Hamper.
Oh God. So this kind of is a reverse from our previous TAS series of
Yeah,
Tangled
when
the
we did
Adventure.
Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure.
Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure.
Because in that one, you knew what was going to happen, and I was making all the theories.
Yeah.
Now I know what's going to happen, and I'm waiting to see what you come up with.
Yeah. I am enjoying, because there again, when we first started watching season 1, all of those, a year ago?
2 years ago.
2 years
because
ago.
there was a whole year where I was being slow at getting them recorded before we switched to recording them at the end of the actual podcast.
Right. So be like watching that, because be like going into this, I'm like, oh, this is the same guys who did what is
Rick
that?
and Morty.
Yeah, that show.
There's a lot of Rick and Morty writers on this show.
Yeah, there are. And I wasn't exactly sure. And so watching the first season, I'm like, wow, this is really good. I mean, it's a little raunchy here and there, but
right.
But like it's still a good story. It's a good show. And definitely Drew over here being a Trekkie, like he's
giggling at every stupid
the
little
entire
thing.
time. I'm like, what in the world are you giggling about?
Weird references that take too long to explain.
Exactly.
Jacob, are you not a Trek fan?
He's only watched the movies.
I've
okay.
Yeah, I've like I grew up watching the original 6 and the like basically all the movies. I've watched a little TV shows here and there, and yeah, it's
when
been
he's
an
been
interesting
forced
ride.
to,
huh?
When he's been forced to watch those episodes.
Yes, exactly. It's against my will. It's against my will.
Wrong show.
Exactly.
Which ironically, you bring up the fact that this show is a little raunchy at times. This was not the raunchy episode, despite what I'm talking about. That is our next episode, which we might as well go into now. Excretus is the name of this next episode. Directed by Kim Arndt and written by Ann Kim. In this episode, the Cerritos has to go through a bunch of drills set up by a drill instructor to make sure that they are up on their game.
Oh my gosh.
In this episode, Eugene Corder, who plays Ensign Rutherford normally, also voiced Winger Bingston Jr. Mark Evan Jackson plays a simulated Starfleet officer and simulated Vendome. Phil Lamar plays a commanding officer and a Borg. And a docking bay officer. Lauren Lapkus plays Jennifer Shreyan, which I can now start saying her full name since it was revealed in this episode. Jessica McKenna plays Barnes. Lennon Parham played Shari Yen Yim and a computer. Ben Roger played Steve Stevens, and Paul Scheer played Andorithio Billups. And special guest star for this episode is Alice Kriege, playing the simulated Borg Queen, as she played the Borg Queen in Star Trek First Contact.
Okay, gotcha.
Getting into the trivia for this one. The name Excretus echoes the Next Generation episode Borg, as well as classic books such as Claudius and Robot. The name Excretus of Borg, like Locutus of Borg, the one that Picard was turned into, is derived from Latin, with Locutus meaning having spoken or he who has spoken, and Excretus on the same model means having separated or he who has separated. However, Excretus also carries overtones in the English language for excrete, meaning to poop, I'm going to say. Shin Yin Yim is the second Pandronian to appear in Star Trek, after Ari Ben Bim from Star Trek the Animated Series episode Bim. Her outfit is nearly identical to the one worn by Bim. Several background characters are given names for the first time in this episode, including Aryan, Castro, Dahi, Merp, Pandara, Ross, and Volus. The Andarian, who was initially known simply as Jennifer or Jen, was identified fully as Jennifer Shreyan. Several scenarios for the Lower Decks crew mirrored episodes from Star Trek the original series and Star Trek the Next Generation, including Mirror Mirror, the Hedge Bat in Ethics, the fake building facades in Inspector of the Gun, Spock's sacrifice in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, Spock's rescue in Star Trek III The Search for Spock, And of course, the original series episode, The Naked Time, along with its next generation sequel, The Naked Now.
My gosh.
It was not quite that sexy in the original shows.
Oh my gosh.
I will say this. Their explanation of what that virus is in this episode is just that it's, it makes people sexy and want to have sex all the time.
Right.
In the original episodes, it's just that it made them act drunk.
Oh, okay.
But then somehow this affects Data, the android, who has relations, we'll say, with Yar in that episode.
Yep.
And this gets made a reference in Star Trek First Contact when the Borg Queen asks, "How long has it been since you've experienced physical forms of pleasure?" And he rattles off the date to the seconds.
Oh my god.
Oh, of course the droid would remember, right?
Anyway.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. That's just one of those weird trivias that you have to throw in there when it comes up. Speaking of the Borg Queen, a hologram of this character appears in this episode, performed by the character's original actress, Alice Kriege. Much of her appearance recreated for Boimler mirrored Data's experience with the Queen in Star Trek First Contact. The holographic Andorithio Billups in Mariner's Naked Time scenario, albeit nude and sitting on a table, is the only character not doing anything remotely sexual, merely reading from a pad. This is in line with the real Billups having to maintain his virginity in order to stay in Starfleet, which was explored in the previous episode. This is contrasted by holographic Mirror Billups, who was portrayed as becoming a little bit turned on from torturing people. Also, the crystalline entity appears, revealing that the one we saw in Star Trek The Next Generation to be part of a species rather than just a unique entity. Last but not least, the holographic Mirror Boimler sounds the alarm that Mariner was an imposter by pointing at her and shrieking. This references how pod people publicly identified humans in the 1978 film version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which Leonard Nimoy had a starring role in, which was an attempt to break him out of being typecasted as Spock.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts on this one, Cody?
All I remember, because I accidentally watched season 3 instead of season 2.
Right.
Now I'm looking back and saw, oh, you did say season 2. So apologies.
Wonk, wonk.
But I do remember Boimler being like that guy trying to get the perfect 100% score in the video game, like going back. It's like, you already did it. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
But it's got to be perfect.
I could do it.
He's got the perfect score, and he gets the call. It's like, you've got to keep that going for as long as possible. And he ends up with a score of 0 because he gets assimilated, and somehow the hologram is good enough. He still thinks he's assimilated.
Oh, poor Boimler. Poor Boimler.
Oh, poor guy. But it's a fun episode. They're all fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on
Oh my
this one?
gosh. The first thing I think is poor Boimler. The entire episode is like the poor man is a perfectionist. He's trying to get this score, and I'm thinking it's like he's over and over just dedicates how dedicated this man is to like Starfleet. He's got to be right. He's got to do the right thing. And he gets that call. You got to be in the entire time. And like you said, he gets assimilated, and they have to yank him out of the simulator. He thinks he's been assimilated. And like at one point, he's be like, "Yeah, but they took everything from me." And I'm thinking, like, at the end of the episode, they're all kind of laughing about it. This man has gone through so much trauma, and they're all laughing at him about it. I'm like, "Oh, poor Boimler. I feel so bad for him, man." And then the others, the simulations were like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. And then the one where they're all like, you know, the naked time, the naked in time. I was like, what the heck?
Admittedly, the first time I watched this, I went, whoa, that's a little farther than I was expecting them to go.
Oh my gosh, definitely that point where it's like it's when you get that one shot where it's the episode where it's the simulation where it's Mariner, right?
Yeah,
It's Mariner going
was in
through
that
it,
one.
and like you see Boimler, it's like, oh, then I'm like, whoa, okay, that was a bit much.
I will admit though, the one that made me laugh was when they were on the bridge doing the group drill, and Shax is running helm, and he has to get up and stretch, and all of a sudden Mariner just sees him from the naked time one and goes, and it's just like, oh my word.
That was good. That was like, oh my gosh. But like, no, I'm having like really, really bad flashbacks.
All I know is whoever upgraded the hologram system from Star Trek First Contact until now, because that was the last time we saw the holodeck. Hey, put way too much work into it because this is too realistic now.
There's always that guy, right? There's always that one person.
Yes,
but it's
someone's put way too much work into making this perfect.
Oh yeah, but it was such a good episode. It was, to me, at some points I'm like, whoa, okay, I'm a little cringe here, but overall very well done. The fact that the captain and Mariner, who her daughter and mother are thinking, it's like, oh yeah, because this was all about, like team building, be like make the crew, like, integrate the team better and the whole bit, and then it's just turned into this sleazy,
literally making it harder so that they can't pass, because she's used to doing all the major ships,
the ship,
and they always pass all the time. So yeah, give it to a small ship that no one cares about and show them all fail. That sounds like a great idea to keep my job.
Yeah, it definitely. You go back to the first of the episode where the lower decks crew is on the satellite and they emerge and they warp out. They leave them for 6 hours. And like, what do they get? Be like, when you like compensate them for something, be like, oh yeah, here's some nice heating pads. You left me in the void of space for 6 hours. I could have died. And then the point that was like, there was a part of me, it's like, this is the worst captain ever. And then where it's like she's trying to make a point with the instructor, where she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do the most dangerous thing ever because you're gonna change this score, and literally goes on all these insane missions that, oh yeah, we're gonna put you to the brink of death and make you change it. And I'm thinking, like, does this crew do this all the time? We don't see this.
Because we are never if a show was being made about the Cerritos, we would never be following their A story.
No,
we're always following the B story.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, we're always following the B story. So it would make sense they're going on adventures like this.
Should be very obvious when we get to the first episode of season 3.
Yeah. No spoilers.
Sorry,
I'm not saying anything.
I know.
First episode of season 3 is one of my favorites.
Okay,
but
we'll get there when we get there.
That's not for another 2 episodes, but
such a good episode. Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I will say that the events of this episode actually do affect some stuff coming up.
Oh, okay.
Just putting that out there.
Gotcha.
But that is going to be the end of this episode. The next 2 Star Trek Lower Decks episodes we'll be reviewing next week will be Wedge Dudge and First Contact.
Nice.
Wedge Dudge is Klingon.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
And I'm not telling you what it means until we get to that episode.
Okay.
But anyway, join us next time for that. Cody, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at FilmNerd85. You can find my video stream show, Video Store Rejects. It's on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and on our Facebook page.
Awesome. So yeah, that's going to be it for us. Of course, our shameless self-promotion will be in the pre-recorded outro. But in the meantime, this has been Drew.
This is Jacob.
And this is Cody. Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you in the next frame.
You can follow Jacob on his Facebook at Jacob B. Heron. His Facebook page, Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where he tries to draw each and every day. His Instagram at Jacob B. Heron. His Twitter at Jacob Heron. And his Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. You can find Drew on Facebook at Drew Dodgen. His Facebook page, Drew's Photo Bin, to see his photography. His Letterboxd page at ggeorge759. His Twitter at ggeorge759. And Instagram at Drew Dodgen. You can like us on Facebook at the Cellcast Podcast. On Twitch at the Cellcast Gaming. On YouTube at Cellcast. On Twitter at cast_cell. The Cellcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or anywhere else fine podcasts are downloaded from. Please rate and review us where you found us, and also on Podchaser. Email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. The Cellcast is a proud member of both the Pop Americana and Culture Box media networks. For more information, please see the link in the description. Our theme song is Drop and Roll by Silent Partner. And remember, that's Cell, with a single L.
Yeah. Oink, oink. Dang it.
Deedlit, you've been feeding him bacon again? What are you putting in that stuff?